Well, hello and good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to this English lesson about agriculture, about farming, about what it's like to be a farmer. I know this topic isn't going to be everyone's cup of tea. In English, when something isn't your cup of tea, it means maybe you don't enjoy it that much. But if you remember last week, I said when you learn a language, you have to learn all the words and all the phrases, even if a topic isn't super interesting. But here's a little secret. This topic is really interesting for me because not only did I grow up on a farm, I also live on a farm right now. So I know many of you have watched my previous videos where I show you some parts of our farm. So this lesson is really exciting for me because I get to talk about farming. I'll talk a little bit too about why I didn't become the same kind of farmer as my dad and mom, but we'll get to that later. Anyways, I'm Bob the Canadian. Welcome to this English lesson. Please remember the chat is for English conversations only. Todd and Dave are in the chat moderating. Thanks to those two for doing that. But please use only English in the chat and use it to have conversations between each other. If you have questions during the lesson, please use the form that is linked in the chat. Please don't ask the question in the chat. I do want to say hi to everyone who is here. It's awesome to see so many regulars in the chat, and it's nice to be able to say hi to them before the lesson. So thank you for jumping in a little bit early. It's nice to say hi, and it's nice to just greet everyone before we get started. So farming. Farming is what people do in order to create food for the world. I did want to say one last thing before I start. I know people have certain opinions and certain feelings about what kinds of foods we should eat. I do want to remind you that even if you are someone who feels strongly about what kinds of foods should be eaten and shouldn't be eaten, that this is an English lesson. So it's important, even if you don't agree with some of the foods that I show you, that you still learn the words so you're able to talk about them. Remember, even if you're against something, you need to know the vocabulary in order to make an argument against it. But let's get started. So, a farm. A farm is simply a place where food is either grown or animals are raised for food. Notice I use two different words there, and I'll get to that in a little while, why there are two different ones. But a farm is a place out in the country. So in our country of Canada, we have cities, but people also live out in the country. And generally, people out in the country have a farm. So the farm is the place where the food is produced. Yes, I do have the same microphone, but I took off this little piece because I'm not outside. So yes, same microphone. Sorry, I just saw that in the chat. The act of doing that, we would say, is farming. Okay, so that person is farming on that road. I wonder what that farmer is growing. I'm sure he's farming every moment of the day. Sorry, that was a bad example. But the act of doing it is called farming. The general term for farming is agriculture. Okay, so when you talk about all of the things that you can do that involve the growing of food or the raising of animals, the proper term, the official term is agriculture. So in Canada, we do not have a government division for farming. We have a government division for agriculture. It's actually a ministry. It's called the Ministry of Agriculture and Food. So agriculture is your most formal term for farming. I do want to pause and say hi to the 300 people that are watching. I'm actually surprised that that many people have joined already. I didn't think this would be a popular topic, but I'll tell you a little secret. I never know which topics are going to be the most popular. Sometimes when I do a topic that I think will be popular, it isn't. And sometimes when I do a topic that I think won't be popular, it is. So I see in the chat someone saying, is farming like a profession? Yes, that's correct. Generally, if you live on a farm, you will probably live in a house, but we actually call it a farmhouse. So a farmhouse is the house that's on the same property. A farmhouse is like the room I'm sitting in. I am living in a farmhouse right now. There's nothing different about a farmhouse compared to a regular house. It just happens to be on a farm. So on a farm, the type of house you would have there is a farmhouse. Some people really like farmhouses. because they are generally bigger houses with lots of space, and they usually have really big kitchens. I think because long ago farmers usually had lots of kids, and so they needed a big kitchen to feed all their kids. The person who does the farming is called a farmer. Now, there is no gender specific word for farmer in English. If you are a man or a woman, you are a farmer. I am a farmer. Jen is a farmer. We are both farmers. So the person who does the farming is called a farmer. Let me get to the next slide here. And then in a moment, we will start on some questions. The other building that you will see on a farm is a barn. And I think this might be a good time just to jump in and get some questions. So the house that you see on a farm is a farmhouse. The other big building, usually the one that has animals in it, is called a barn. So you'll notice in my videos, quite often you will see the barn in the background because we have a large barn on our property. Let's get to some questions. Let me just jump over and see what questions we have ready to go. Just give me a minute here and I will find. The first question is from Ruslan. Oh, I noticed I didn't change the color of this to green. I made the slide background green because I thought that looked more farm-like. So anyways, Ruslan says, how are you, dear Teacher Bob? I'm good. Nice to see you again. Is livestock breeding popular in Canada? By the way, do you like Yellowstone series with Kevin Costner? I have not watched that show yet. Maybe I should watch it, but I'm trying to watch French television right now because that's better for me because I need to practice my French to get ready to teach. Yes, livestock breeding is popular in Canada. So just so you know, when you talk about any kind of animal that is raised on a farm, we call it livestock, okay? So cows and sheep and goats and pigs, all of those together are called livestock. So that's what Ruslan's asking about. Generally, yes, breeding livestock is popular. There are shows every fall. There's something called the Royal Winter Fair in Toronto, where farmers come and show off their livestock to people. Great question. Next question from Rod, VIPIDP. Hi, Rod. Good morning, Mr. Bob. It's a very cold Friday morning here. Yeah, we're going to have the opposite, Rod. It's going up to 32 today. It's been fairly cool, but it's going right back up. Rod says, I'm wondering what's the best thing about living on a farm? Just a small correction there. And how long have you lived on one? Thank you very much. The best thing about living on a farm is, you'll notice this in my videos, we have lots of space. And if you watched my short English lesson of today, I show you the sky. We just have lots of really beautiful, clean air. Like, I don't live near any pollution. So I do really enjoy the fact that we have lots of space. The kids can ride their bikes and run around. I can walk on through my fields. It's just very enjoyable to have space and to have fresh air. I like those two aspects. Next question, Annette from Quebec. Hi, Bob. Quelle sorte de travail... I was going to try and speak French. Quelle sorte de travail est-ce que tu fais pendant l'hiver? What kind of farming work do you do during the winter? Well, we don't do a whole lot. In November, we clean up the farm. So we just clean everything up and put everything away. In December and January, we don't do a lot of farming. We do have some sheep and goats, so we do feed them twice a day. But then in January, Jen starts little seeds in the house for the flower farm. Let's see here. I think I might have missed part of Rod's question about how long I lived on a farm. But I think Renata is asking the same one. Good morning, Bob. Good morning, Renata. How are you doing today? I'm good. I hope you're doing great. Have you always lived on the farm? Have a great day, sir. So I lived on this farm from the day I was born. I was born in a hospital, but my mom brought me home after a couple days. And I lived on this farm till I was 18. And then I went to university for a few years. And then I did actually live in town. I lived in a townhouse for a little while. But then I did move back here, I think when I was about 29 or 30. So I grew up here. I lived here for 18 years, and now I have been living here again for almost the same amount of time. Notice I don't tell you guys how old I am. So this has been this place is very near and dear to me. I have lived here for most of my life. Let's see here. Next question. Hafez from Syria. Hi, Teacher Bob. How are you? I'm good. Was your grandfather using oxen or horses to plow? Yes. So here's an interesting story. I'm a farmer. My dad was a farmer. My grandfather was a farmer. My great-grandfather was a farmer. Everybody going back years and years was a farmer. So my grandfather actually was a farmer in Holland. So Holland is also called the Netherlands. My grandfather and grandmother were farmers there. And my grandfather loved horses. In fact, when he immigrated to Canada, he still had horses just because he loved them. They had tractors to do the work, but he still kept a few horses because he really, really enjoyed having horses. Let's see here. Just a big thank you here from Taryar. Hello, Bob, my favorite YouTuber. Thanks for the lessons and keep going. I do watch your videos a lot and they enlighten me a lot from Myanmar. Well, thank you very much for the compliment. That is very nice of you. Let's see here. Last question and we'll get back to the lesson. Salih says, we have in Saudi Arabia, agriculture is linked according to our popular culture with stars, and currently with extreme heat, close to 45 degrees Celsius, dates and grapes ripen. Yeah, I mean, depending on the temperature of where you live, you will be growing vastly different crops than we would be. We can grow grapes here, but I don't think we can grow dates. So let's get back to the lesson. So another thing you'll see on a farm is something called a silo. You may have seen silos in some of my videos as well. The silo is the big round structure, the tower that you see on a farm. Don't get confused though. This is a grain bin. So the shorter structure that's usually made out of metal, we would call a grain bin. And the taller structure that you see here, we call a silo. Often, I'm going to call them city people. When you live in the country, you sometimes refer to people from the city as city people. So sometimes city people get these two names confused. So this is a silo. A silo is used to store feed for the winter. So oftentimes farmers will put what's called hay or haylage in the silo to feed later in the winter. Lolly has given a super chat for Dave and Todd. By the way, thank you so much for all the super chats and everything from last week for Dave and Todd. I haven't told them the total yet, but they're pretty happy, or they will be pretty happy. Again, this is a grain bin. So this is used to store things like wheat or corn, what we call grain crops. So there is definitely a difference between the two. You will also find a building called a machine shed or a drive shed. So this is a place where the farmer will keep all of his or her tractors and equipment. So we on my property as well, when you watch my videos, sometimes you'll see the barn in the background. Sometimes you'll see the machine shed in the background. It has two names. You can call it a machine shed or a drive shed. Most farms also have a shop or workshop. And I wanted to put this one in here because the word shop in English has a number of different meanings. So shop can also be the short form of workshop. So my father-in-law, who also lives on a farm, has a workshop. In his workshop, he has a welder so that he can weld steel together. So if his farm equipment breaks, he can fix it. So he has a workshop, or we just call it a shop, where he can fix his equipment. Let's see here. You might also on a farm see a chicken coop. So chickens get their own special name for the little building that they live in. A chicken coop can be outside, like the one you see in this picture, but a chicken coop can also be inside of a barn. Earlier, Nate Indy asked if I had chickens. We do have chickens. We have 10 chickens. Our chickens are in a chicken coop, and the chicken coop is inside the barn. Some farms will have chicken coops outside the barn. So that is where the chickens live, in the chicken coop. Notice I'm just going through all the different structures that you will see on a farm. So just a quick review. There's a farmhouse, there's a barn, silo, grain bin, machine shed, shop or workshop, and chicken coop. I think that's all of them. There's a few other things you'll see on a farm as well. If you have animals that graze, grazing is when animals eat grass in a field or pasture. But if you have animals like cows or sheep or goats, those are considered grazing animals. They sometimes will be in a pasture, especially during the nicer times of the year. We have a pasture along the river, and sometimes our goats and sheep are out on the pasture. But a pasture is a large field with mostly grass in it where animals go to graze. So I'm not sure if you know the word graze, but those are called grazing animals, animals that eat grasses. Let me see here. That pasture is usually surrounded by a fence. A fence is a structure that you build so that animals can't get out of the pasture. When I was a kid, sometimes the cows would get out. So when I was a kid, we had a dairy farm. We had cows that we milked. And sometimes the cows would get out because the fence was broken. So the fence is what keeps the animals inside of the pasture or the field. Hey, I just want to pause and say hi to the 447 people watching this lesson. If you're new here, there is a subscribe button right there. You should click it, and then you will get notified when I do a new English lesson. And then the general term, let me make this a little bigger. The general term for any area of land where you grow things is called, sorry, I'm just going to check something here. I think one of my slides is missing. Nope, it's there. It'll come in a sec. A big area of land where you grow crops, where you grow plants, is called a field. So farmers have many fields around their farmhouse and around their farm and around their barn. I'm getting farm and barn mixed up. Yeah, Nate Indy's asking if Oscar runs to kind of chase the grazing animals. He's not super good at it. He's not a good herding animal at all. I just talked about fences. There is a saying in English, good fences make good neighbors. And I'm just curious, let me know in the chat if you have a similar phrase in your language. What this means is that when two people live beside each other and when they are neighbors, they are nicer to each other if there is a fence dividing their properties. So we have a saying in English, good fences make good neighbors. And what we mean by this is, if you keep your things separate from your neighbor's things with a fence, it usually means that you're happier. We even say this at work. If you have a desk that touches another person's desk, sometimes people will put up a little divider because good fences make good neighbors. Sometimes when you have your own space, it just works better. Let's go back to some questions, folks. Let me see here. This question is from Lolly Lolly. Bonjour, Bob le Canadien. Do you practice fallowing or fallow fields after you grow the flowers? Merci, Bob. So we do. So let me explain when you leave something fallow for a year, it means you don't grow a crop. We do this with our flower area. We have areas where we grow flowers. We have other areas where every other year we simply grow what are called cover crops. So we'll put a crop in, not for harvest. We grow a crop so that we can till it under. So we give that area a bit of a rest so that it's not always producing flowers. Next question from Talk Italian with Arone. Did you always live on a farm? Ciao, Bob. Yes, pretty much my whole life. My earliest memory that I have is watching my grandfather kind of build a ramp for the cows to get out of the barn. So here was the barn. A ramp is like an incline. He built a ramp so the cows could walk out. I don't know how to do four-legged animals with my hand. But yes, I have pretty much always lived on this farm, except for the time I was in university. And my first few years afterwards, I lived in town. Let's see here. Next question is from Natalia. Greetings, Bob. What do you think of the quote, "If the farmer is rich, then so is the nation"? I like it a lot. There is some truth to this that countries that have good, strong agricultural sectors, so countries that have good farms, countries that have good farmland and can produce a lot of food, generally are better off. We wouldn't say rich, but we would say better off. So often our government does a lot to support farmers, to make sure that farmers can do well. There is a joke though, because farmers really love farming, okay? So there's a joke about, did you hear about the farmer that won the lottery? And then the other person says no. And then the punchline is he kept farming till all the money was gone. So farmers usually really love growing things and raising animals. And even if they were rich, they would just keep doing it because it's just a way of life, we would say in English. Let's see here. Well, we're climbing over 500 people watching. So excellent. Thank you very much. Don't forget there's a subscribe button there. Let me get to the next question. Next question is not about farming, so I'm going to skip it. So if that is your question, sorry about that. Next question. Sarah says, do you sell your farming products to consumers or a middleman? So it depends on the crop. So our flowers, we sell directly to the consumer. We go at the end of our driveway, we have a roadside stand, and we go to a farmer's market, and sometimes people order flowers from us and they come and buy them from us. So we sell our flowers directly to the consumers. Right now, I have a large field of soybeans that will be sold to a middleman. We sell it to the local grain elevator. They will take that grain and they will resell it. So it depends on the crop, Sarah. Let's see here. Modine, Mr. Bob, do you think that vertical farming will take a prominent role in agricultural industry in the future? Role in the agricultural industry in the future, in light of technological developments and the continuation of the reduction of land? Yes. Okay. So I made a few changes while I read that. Here's what basically I think. We need to start growing food everywhere. In countries like Canada, where we have lots of land, I think that we will continue to grow a lot of food outside. I think in some countries, especially smaller island nations like Japan or Britain, I think they will eventually need to start growing food in what's called vertical farming. So vertical farming is when you grow food like in an apartment type building, like a large structure that has food growing on every floor. So we'll see. Who knows what the future holds. Let me do one more question and we will get back to the lesson. Sevda says, hi, Bob. How's it going? What kind of animal farming is popular in your country? So what we consider the big four would be dairy, which is milking cows to produce milk. And then chickens, which is to raise chickens for either meat or eggs. And then pig farming, which is to raise pigs. And then, did I miss one? Beef, and beef farming. Those would be the big four in Canada. And I'm not sure which one is the biggest. It depends a lot on the province. For instance, the province of Quebec produces a lot of milk and cheese. The province of Alberta produces a lot of beef. So it really depends on what part of Canada you are talking about. I'm not sure. I'll try this question, Jagdish, but hello, sir. I love farming. Please explain, sir. I saw a saw in the saw. Greetings from India. So I think it's just a sentence that plays on the word saw. So when you say I saw, it means that you saw it with your eyes, but you can also saw something with a saw. So you could say I saw a saw. Let's see. I saw you saw with the saw. You could say that. For sure. But let's get to another farming question and we'll get back to the lesson. Regina, hello, Teacher Bob. Are there any animals or livestock that you would like to raise on your farm in the future? Thank you for your answer. No, I'll explain something about when you have animals, when you have livestock, you need to go to the barn 2 or 3 times a day to feed them and give them water. That means it's very difficult to leave the farm. Farmers do not often go on vacation. So right now, because we have chickens and sheep and goats, we are kind of tied to the farm. It's very difficult for us to go away and have a vacation. So I don't want more animals, Regina. I actually wouldn't mind having less animals at some point in the future. Anyways, let's get back to the lesson. Here we go. Good fences make good neighbors. One thing, if you have livestock, if you have animals, you will have manure. So there's no nice way to say this. Animals eat, and then animals pee and animals poop. So you end up with manure. We put straw into our pens and our animals poop. And then when we clean out our pens, we put all of the manure in the manure pit. Some farms have a manure pile. It's just a different way of describing it. But when you have animals, you will have manure. Now, the good thing about manure is that if you let manure sit for 1 year, it composts and it turns into a really nice soil amendment. It turns into really nice fertilizer. So if you have livestock, you will definitely have manure. But if you don't have a lot of manure, you will use fertilizer. So fertilizer comes in a bag. It's granular. That means it's small little pieces, and you can just spread that on your land. Let's get into some of the things that you will see on a farm. Farmers always have farm machinery or farm equipment. You can use both names. I have a lot of farm machinery. In order to operate a farm, you need equipment, you need machinery, you need machines that will help you do the things that you need to do. So I'm not going to go over all the different types of farm equipment, just about 4. So if you're not interested in farm equipment, bear with me. Most farmers have a tractor or multiple tractors. We have 2 tractors. And depending on the job that you need to do. Large farms, my neighbor's farm, they have 6 tractors. They have a really, really big farm. My other neighbor has 5 tractors. They have a really, really big farm. But a tractor is something that the farmer drives. So just like you drive a car, in English, you drive a tractor. Okay, I'm going to drive the tractor over there. Oh, he's out driving the tractor in the field. So if you live on a farm, you will have a lot of tractors. Anything you pull behind a tractor, first of all, you pull it. So you pull things with the tractor. We would call equipment, or we would call it an implement. Okay. So you could say there are a lot of farm implements, or there's a lot of farm equipment, or there's a lot of farm machinery. Another type of piece of farm equipment is a combine. So I didn't talk about this word last week, but someone asked about different pronunciations. This is a combine or a combine harvester. We usually just call it a combine. And what's tricky about this is it looks like the word combine. So you can combine 2 words together to make a new word. You can combine ingredients to make something in your kitchen, but this is a combine. Notice the slightly different pronunciation. You can combine 2 things, but this is a combine. I'm not even sure if you can hear it, but it's definitely a slightly different pronunciation. But a combine is used to harvest. So combines are interesting pieces of farm equipment because they are incredibly expensive. It is the most expensive thing you can buy on a farm. I don't have a combine. My neighbor has a combine. He comes and harvests my crops for me, and I pay him because a combine costs probably almost $1 million for a combine now. And interestingly, it's only used a little bit. It's used just a little bit in the fall and summer to harvest crops. Many farmers will have different types of wagons. So they'll have wagons like the top wagon here, we would call just a wagon. This one we would call a grain wagon. So if you are harvesting, the crop would go in the grain wagon. I could talk about farm equipment all day, but I thought those were the ones that I should go over in an English lesson. So let's look at the different types of farms, but give me 1 second before we do that. Let me go back. I'm losing track of what I'm doing. Let's look at a few different types of farms, then I'll do some questions. So if you raise cows to milk them, you have a dairy farm, okay? So a dairy farm has a large herd of cows. They milk the cows once or twice a day. 2 or 3 times a day, not once. I grew up on a dairy farm. I should know this. They milk the cows 2 or 3 times a day, and the milk goes in a large tank, and a truck comes and picks the milk up every other day. But interestingly enough, most dairy farms now in Canada have a robot that does the milking. So my grandfather milked by hand. My father and mother had milk machines that milk the cows. They had to put the machine on the cow. My neighbors have a robot. The cow simply goes into a certain spot and a robot milks the cows. So That's what a dairy farm is. If you have cows that you are raising for beef, for in North America, the fast food industry needs beef. People barbecue a lot and they need beef. So you would have a beef farm. Okay. So a dairy farm is for milk. A beef farm is for beef or meat production. You might have a chicken farm. There are two kinds of chicken farms. There are chicken farms that produce chickens for meat. So my other neighbor has a chicken farm and they raise chickens for meat. You can also have a chicken farm where you have chickens for egg production. If I go down the road a number of kilometers, there is another farmer and he has a chicken farm and they produce eggs. Okay. You might have a hog farm or pig farm. There are two different names. If I, sorry, I'm not sure why. Just one sec here. All of a sudden my camera decided not to focus on me. So I just fixed that. If I look across the river, there is a farm over there and it is a pig farm. It is a farm that raises pigs in order to produce meat. And that meat is called pork. Okay. So again, interestingly enough, when you go to the grocery store, if you want to buy meat and if it's from a pig, we call it pork. And then there are some goat farms in Ontario. There aren't a lot. Goat farms can be either farms where they milk the goats so that they can have goat milk and make goat cheese, or it might be a farm where they raise goats for meat. By the way, goat meat is becoming more and more popular in Canada, largely because many people immigrate to Canada and they come from countries where it's very common to eat goat meat. It's not common for my family to eat goat meat. I think because we came from Holland originally, it's just not part of something we eat, but it is a very common meat. So, and then let me see here. You might have a sheep farm. So a sheep farm obviously is a farm where you have sheep. There are not, I don't know any farms where they milk sheep. I know in most countries there are farms where they milk sheep and they make cheese out of the sheep milk. In Canada, there are not very many farms that milk sheep. Almost all of our sheep are raised for meat. Let's look at a few questions again, and let me do what I was going to do before. I'm going to flip on members only chat. Let me get down to that. There we go. I think it's now on. Yes. So members only chat is on. So again, if you are a member of this channel, you can ask questions directly in the chat right now, and I would be happy to answer them. So let's see here. I'm going to skip the next question here because it's not. Here's the next question. So I'll do questions from everyone and questions from the chat as well. Madi says he loves goat meat. Yes. You know, Madi, we raise goats and we ship them to Toronto. And I think that it's just becoming a lot more popular for people to eat goat meat in Canada. Corey says, what about your kids? Do they like to live on a farm? Do you think they will keep living in the countryside? Thanks, Bob. I'm not sure, Corey. That's a great question. Usually kids that grow up on the farm want to go live in the city because it looks like it's a lot more fun. But sometimes when they're older, they move back to the country. So we'll have to wait and see what they do. But it's very common for children who grow up on a farm to really want to live in the big city because we can't get pizza delivered out here. If I want to get an Uber ride, Uber doesn't come out here. So a lot of times kids who grow up on a farm end up moving to the city. Let me just check where I am. Yes, we're doing good. Next question is from Katerina. Hi, Bob. Do farmers in Canada pay taxes? What's the best part about being a farmer? So we don't pay sales tax on things we need for the farm. When I go to the store to buy a shirt or a hat, I pay tax. I pay income tax to the government every year. But when I buy things for the farm, I don't need to pay tax. Let's see here. Let's see. Hi, Teacher Bob. This is Sam, the Taiwanese. I'm wondering, is it legal to grow marijuana in Canada? It's legal to grow it now, but you still need permission from the government. Okay, so it is legal, but you do need permission. Um, and then where my sister-in-law is from Canada, lots and lots of tomatoes are grown, miles and miles. Is she from Leamington? I'm not sure, Brent, if that's where she's from, but Brent is saying that where his sister is from is an area in Canada where they grow a lot of tomatoes. There are many, many tomato farms in Leamington, Ontario. That's west of me in the province of Ontario. Regina says the sheep in the image is so cute. Yeah, baby sheep and baby goats are the cutest animals, in my opinion. Let's see here. Rod says, what's your favorite place to relax on your farm? Anywhere under a big tree, Rod. If I can find a big tree to sit under, that is my favorite place to relax. And thankfully, we have some bigger trees. Lolly says, Bob, you're not wearing a farmer's hat like in the picture. This is a farmer's hat, Lolly. This actually is from a corn seed company called Pioneer. And this is, it's actually a farm hat. So anyways, let's see. Corey J, is there a specific word when you put seeds in the ground? In French, it's semer. Is it grow as well, like for plants? So we plant seeds. So when we put a seed in the ground, we say that we are planting a seed. So we plant seeds for our flowers. When my neighbor comes with his corn planter, he plants seeds in my field. So when you put a seed in the ground, we plant. Vladimir, hi, Teacher Bob. How's it going? Do you do something for winter? I mean, something like a tomato, etc. We don't have a greenhouse. So many farms like ours that grow flowers also have a greenhouse. A greenhouse is a building made out of plastic or glass that you can heat in the winter. We don't have a greenhouse. So we just relax a little bit in the summer. Nate Indy, what things are most produced in Canada? So Canada is definitely a large producer of beef. We are a large producer of milk and milk products like cheese. We are a large producer of some vegetables, not a lot, but we do grow vegetables through the summer. As Brent mentioned, we grow tomatoes. I would say we are also a fairly large producer of maple syrup, which is a different kind of farming, sort of. And we do have some farms that simply produce like fruits and nuts. So we have a lot of fruit farms in my area, but not in the rest of Canada. Let's see here. Angelica Werner, hello, Bob. Do you also have organic farming in Canada? Here in Germany, it is very popular. Yes. So there are many farms that are organic. So they don't use herbicides or pesticides when they grow their food. And if they have animals, they feed the animals organic feed as well. So we do have some, yes. Brent says, yeah, she's from Leamington. Yes, wow, nice job. Well, Brent, either you mentioned that before, or that's really the only place in Canada we grow tomatoes. So I just figured it was one of the two. Julia says, hi, dear teacher. Is this checkered shirt you just look like I imagine the farmers look? Yeah, this is my farmer shirt. So I don't actually wear this on the farm. It's kind of a joke, but many farmers wear a farmer's hat. Usually it's a hat they got from a farm machinery place or a seed company. And then many farmers wear plaid shirts of different varieties. This is the most Canadian I look. I look more like a lumberjack, probably. Let's see here. Rod says, are you a hammock resting guy, Bob, once you work hard? Jen really wants a hammock, Rod. We don't have one, but we should get one for sure. And Madi says, would you like to live the rest of your life on your farm? If yes, I will give you $1 million to leave your farm. So what do you say? I would probably say no. I mean, if you were serious, I'd really have to think about it. But I love living here, Madi, and I don't plan to leave anytime soon. The only thing that would make me leave and sell the farm is if one of my kids, when they are older, wants to buy it from me. Then I would be willing to move. Annette says, the pictures you've chosen are very beautiful, maybe because they are about nature and country. Yes, I tried to find pictures that were really, really nice. There's actually a picture coming up of my farm in just a little bit. Let's see. Vladimir, Madi, can you give us money as well? Madi says, do you live on a farm? I like it when you guys joke around. That's really good. Inju says, do your children like farm life or country life? So when our children are old enough, they start to work for us on the flower farm, and they like earning money. They like having a job on the farm. I'm not sure they actually like farming. We'll see. I think it will grow on them over time. Vladimir says, I would like to be a farmer when I will retire. Vlad, when I retire, if I do move off the farm, I hope to buy a place where I can have a large garden and still grow stuff. That would be fun. Brent says, classic flannel shirt. Love it. Is it from LL Bean, a famous brand from my state of Maine? No, it's actually from the dollar store. It's a very, very cheaply made shirt. Julie says, yes, you look great. Vladimir says, Madi, I will have. And then Nate Indy says, Canada is a good place to produce mushrooms. Maybe it needs... So they grow mushrooms here, Nate Indy, but they grow them inside. So there are large mushroom farms in Canada, but they grow the mushrooms inside. We actually buy what's called mushroom compost from a mushroom farm to use to grow flowers. Corey says, have you built everything on your farm? I mean, fences and buildings. No, I have built most of the fences, but the buildings were all here when I bought the farm from my mom. By the way, I bought this farm from my mom, if you were wondering. And Vargas, I just would like to say thank you for one more lesson today. You are awesome. You are welcome, and Vargas. It's no problem. Samuel Chen, hi Bob, just saying hi. I'm late. Hi Samuel. And then Ing Martina says, hi Bob, do you use any other kinds of fertilizers? I know you've already mentioned manure. Yeah, it's funny you say that. I just mentioned mushroom compost. So we use manure from our animals, but we also use mushroom compost. We get a load of mushroom compost delivered, and we use that as well. Rod says, I'm a Mahdi fan. He lives large. And then Brent says, Canadian Tire. No, this came from Giant Tiger. There's a store called Giant Tiger around here. And Q Park says, maybe I have a farm soul. I always want to grow something. So people who like to grow things, we say they have a green thumb. There are many people, even in the big city, who live in an apartment, and on their balcony, they will grow things in small containers because they just like growing things. So definitely, if you like growing things, that is a cool thing, Q Park. Hey, I'm going to turn off the members only chat. Give me one moment here. I just have to find the button. I do want to say thank you again to all my members for supporting me. You guys are awesome. But let's get back to the lesson. We are talking about a sheep farm. There's also something called a vegetable farm. So let me make this a little bit bigger. A vegetable farm. Notice I went to a different country for my picture this time because I thought I should be a little bit more equal. I picked mostly pictures about Canada, but I thought I should pick pictures from around the world. A vegetable farm grows vegetables, and I forgot to put a slide in for fruit farm. So a fruit farm grows fruit, a vegetable farm grows vegetables. There are many vegetable farms north of Toronto. I know that might seem strange. It's somewhat a little bit colder north of Toronto, but there are a lot of vegetable farms in a place called Bradford, Ontario. They just have really good soil, and they grow things like onions and carrots and all those kinds of things. So again, just imagine there's a slide that says fruit farm. A fruit farm is a place where you grow fruit. A fruit farm would grow things like peaches and apples and pears and plums and nectarines, all of the different types of fruit. We don't grow bananas in Canada. So again, thank you if you are from a country that grows bananas. If you have a banana farm and you are watching this video, you are my hero. You are awesome. But in Canada, we can't grow things like that. You might have a flower farm. You might recognize this. So you can see in this picture, you can see my drive shed or machinery shed or machine shed. You can see that I can't put my hand over top of the picture, can I? You can see the two silos. You can see the barn, and then in front, you can see the flowers. So there are farms that grow flowers. We would call them a flower farm. Now, I forgot to put fruit farm, but I did remember to put orchard. An orchard is a place where you grow fruit. So if you have a bunch of trees in a certain place on your farm and you are growing apples or pears or other kinds of fruit, we would call it an orchard. Orchards are really nice places to work because it's almost always shady. That's probably the best thing about orchards. let's see here. I'm just checking where I am. Oh, yes. And then there's, of course, vineyards. So close to me, I live close to an area where you can grow grapes. A vineyard is a place where you can grow grapes. So close to me, probably about half an hour's drive, there are many, many vineyards. I live close to Lake Ontario, and Lake Ontario is a really big body of water that creates a microclimate to the south of it. A microclimate is when the weather is a little warmer or cooler because there is a lake or body of water close by. So I live close to Lake Ontario. Lake Ontario creates an area where you can grow grapes in Ontario. So there are a lot of vineyards. They grow grapes for eating. We call them table grapes. They also grow grapes to make grape juice and to make wine. There are a lot of wineries close to me. So if you ever come to Canada and you are someone who likes drinking wine, you will probably visit that area because there are a lot of wineries where you can go and you can taste wine. Let me get to the next slide. We have a phrase in English called farm fresh. When you go to the grocery store, sometimes you buy food that is farm fresh. This simply means that the food went from the farm to the grocery store as quickly as possible. If you really want farm fresh food, though, if you want food that is really fresh, I would buy it at a farmer's market. The farmer's market where we sell flowers, there are several farmers there. Oh, the fly is back. There are several farmers there that sell fruit and that sell vegetables. And I would say if you want farm fresh food, if you want food that's just recently harvested or recently picked, I would go and buy it at a farmer's market. That's probably your best place to get it. Currently, there is a lot of anger in North America because of what's called factory farming. So in Ontario, Canada, we have family farms, but we also have farms that have grown so big that they are called factory farms. This is true in the United States as well and other parts of the world. A factory farm grows food as quickly and as efficiently as possible, but doesn't always care too much about the animals that they are raising. First of all, there are no factory farms growing vegetables. There are no factory farms growing fruit. Factory farms are always farms that are raising some kind of livestock. So right now in Canada, there are people who would like laws changed so that factory farming can be changed to be more friendly to the animals that are being raised. So you might hear or read the phrase factory farming when you are studying English. Anything that an animal on a farm eats is simply called feed. Okay, so there's chicken feed, there's pig feed, there's rabbit feed, there's every kind of feed that you can think of. We buy our feed from the feed mill. When you go to the feed mill, you simply buy sheep feed and goat feed. We also feed our animals hay as well, and they also do eat on pasture. Anything that a farmer grows is called a crop. Okay, so even though we grow flowers, we say that, that's a pretty good crop of flowers this year. It's a pretty good crop of soybeans this year. It's a pretty good crop of wheat this year. The crop's doing well out in the field. The crop is doing well. Sorry, I'm shortening my words a little bit. And so Madi says people feed. Yeah, we don't have people feed. You don't go to the people feed store to buy feed for people. But yes, anything that a farmer grows is called a crop. I'm going to jump over and do just a few more questions, and then we will finish off the lesson in just a little bit. Next question is from Kadir. Hi, Bob. I'm just trying to get the fly away. If you're wondering what I'm doing, maybe you thought my computer, I could move my hands. What kind of farming do you work every day? We are flower farmers. That is our primary type of farming. We grow flowers. So every day, Jen mostly, and me sometimes a little bit, sometimes a lot, are working on growing flowers. Ildar says, hi, Teacher Bob. How is it going? How often do people in Canada, little correction there, have flat in the city and summer house with a little garden in the country? Thank you for your lessons. Many people in Canada either own a cottage or rent a cottage. We don't often call it a summer house. But many people who live in the big cities like Toronto or Montreal, they will have an apartment or a small house in the city, and they might rent a cottage in the summer, and they might go to the cottage for a few weeks, or they might own a cottage. It's very rare for people to have a summer house. Generally, they have a cottage because we have many, many lakes and rivers in this part of Canada. So people are more likely to have a boat than a garden at the cottage. They're more likely to have a jet ski than a small garden. Maybe it would be better if they had a small garden. Let me see here. Let's see here. Oh, here we go. Ario says, "Hola, Mr. Bob. I had chickens, but in the game. The game is called Harvest Moon, Friends of Mineral Town. You can check the game on YouTube. The game is about farming." There's another game called Farming Simulator, I think. I think my kids have that game and they play it sometimes as well. Let's see here. And then Amina says, "Hi, teacher. How are you? Can you tell us the difference between the silo and the grain bin? Thank you." So I'm not going to go back to the slide, but I'll tell you this. The silo is a very tall tower. A grain bin is usually shorter and fatter. You could probably use the words interchangeably in some areas, Amina, but here in my part of Ontario, the taller thing is called a silo, and it's usually made out of concrete. And the smaller building is called a grain bin, and it's usually made out of steel. Let's see here. Let's go to the slides. Let's finish the slides, and I'll do a few more questions at the end. When we went over this a little bit earlier, when you put seeds in the ground, you plant them. So my neighbor comes and he will plant my crops for me. Okay. So the verb is to plant. So he plants my crops. He puts the seeds in the ground for me. When he comes in the fall with his combine, he harvests the crop. So again, at the beginning of the growing season, so the time where you grow things is called the growing season. At the beginning, we plant our crops. At the end, we harvest. I'm going to jump to the chat. Brent says, "I'm sad. This will be the last Friday live stream I will be able to attend for a while. School starts next week." So Brent, have a great school year, first of all. And then second, I'm not sure what time I will be doing the Friday live streams starting in a few weeks. Next week will be the same. The week after will be the same. But at a certain point, I'm not sure what time this will happen at. It might be a little earlier or a bit later. We'll see. So anyways, let's get to the next slide here. If you live in a place where it does not rain very much, you will have to irrigate your crops. So when you irrigate, it means you use pumps and pipes to put water onto your crop. Almost hit my microphone. That is called irrigating. Okay. We irrigate our flowers. We do not irrigate our bigger crops. We just do not have the equipment to do it. So our flowers, we irrigate. If you watch the video about learning, the tour of the farm that I did a couple weeks ago, maybe Todd or Dave can find that video. But a couple weeks ago, I did a video about our flower farm. And in that video, I show you some of the ways that we irrigate. When you irrigate, it means that you put water on the crop so that it will grow. And then just to review, sorry, I don't know who this guy is, but I thought it was a funny picture. When you grow plants, you use the word grow. Okay, so we grow flowers, but we raise chickens. Okay, so notice the difference. If you're talking about plants, you use the verb grow. So we grow flowers. I grow soybeans. We grow hay. Anything that comes out of the ground that is a plant, we grow. Vladimir says, "It's perfect when you have rains to irrigate." Yes, it's really dry right here, right now, though, Vlad. We're a little worried that it needs to rain soon. Not for the flowers, but for the bigger crops. So again, you grow plants, you raise animals. Okay, so he raises ducks, he raises cows, he raises pigs. That is the difference there. And then here we go. The difference between an acre and a hectare, or a hectare. So we in Canada measure all, one sec. In Canada, we measure all of our pieces of land in acres. Okay, so an acre is approximately 200 by 200 feet, 208 by 208. In most parts of the world, you measure in hectares. A hectare is about 2.5 acres. So an acre is smaller. But if you buy a farm, you say, how many acres is that farm? Okay. And then you buy the farm by the acre. When you sell a farm, you say, okay, 200-acre farm for sale, X amount of dollars per acre. If you live in a different part of the world where you use the metric system, you would use hectares, which is 100 meters by 100 meters. But yes, there are certainly different ways to measure the size of the farm. I'm going to flip to this, and I'm just going to say I'm going to finish the last 5 minutes just answering a few questions. But let me get to that. Sorry, I lost my train of thought again. Here we go. Questions. Right. Gian from Brazil. I see clean air in cold countries images. I think it is because maybe the pollution falls down with the temperatures. Well, in a farm, the air quality is amazing. It's possible. It's also true that most northern countries don't have extremely large populations. Okay, maybe that's not 100% true, but not everyone likes living where it's cold. So that might mean that less people means less pollution. I might be wrong, though. I'm never sure. Next question is not about farming. Let's skip that one. Oh, this is a great one. Jan from Belarus. Hi, Jan. Good day, Bob. How hope you're doing great. By the way, Jan from Belarus, at my school, I have taught students from Belarus in the past, and they have been awesome students. So just big shout out to wherever they are. They were great students. Anyways, Jan says, good day, Bob. Hope you're doing great. Here's my question. Have you ever been to farms in other countries? If you have, how are they compared to the Canadian ones? I have only been to farms in the United States. I have not been to any farms in, oh, that's not true. I went to a farm in South Africa. A farm, I think it was a macadamia nut farm. That's the only other farm I've ever visited. But when I'm older and I start to visit other countries with Jen, our plan is to do what's called agritourism. Agritourism is when you go on vacation, but on the vacation you visit a farm. So I might do that. Jen and I might do that later in life. We might visit a few farms here and there. Next question is not about farming. Let me find the next one. Here we go. Martina says, are there eco farms or bio farms in Canada? Is there any difference between these two terms? So we would call them, there's two kinds of farms. There's organic farms, and then there's, I'm trying to think of the name. There's, I can't think of the name, but there's like a biodiversity kind of farm where they grow a lot of different crops. So yes, but in English, I know in French, the word bio, I think, is organic. In English, we use the word organic. But yes, there are many farms like that, Martina. Julian from Romania, I just want to say hello to Bob and to everyone in the chat. Hi, Julian. Thanks for the little message. Let's see here. And Enrico says, hi, Bob. Do you have some people to help you on the farm? Maybe in some seasons or periods you should need it. Thanks a lot for your super professional teaching. Our older kids work for us. Okay, so once our kids are old enough, they work for us on the farm. We don't have any workers at this point in time. We might in the future if we get bigger. But I did want to mention one thing. Throughout this whole lesson, if I was to emphasize one thing about the English language, is that we use the phrase on the farm. So I noticed in a few of the questions from time to time, people would say in the farm. It's always on the farm. We live on a farm. I live on a farm. Do you grow a lot of flowers on the farm? So make sure you use on with farm. Abbas says, hello, Teacher Bob. What's the difference between sheep and goat? The only thing I can tell you is the sheep have wool and you have to shear them every year. And the goats don't have wool and you don't need to shear them. That's probably the biggest difference. They are obviously very different from each other in terms of animals, but the simple answer would be sheep have wool and goats don't. Next question is from Intan, says, hi, Bob, how's it going? Do you like to plant organic food on your farm? What do you think about organic chicken, etc.? Thank you. So we have a really good deal with our neighbors at the farmers market. What I mean by that is we take our flowers to the farmers market And the people right beside us sell vegetables. So we trade flowers for fruits and vegetables. So it's a really good deal. So we don't grow any food here. It's easier to just grow flowers and then trade with our friends at market for what they are producing. I'm going to do this last question. It's not directly about farming, but it's from Adnan. Hi, Teacher Bob. I hope you are doing well. Is there a difference in pronunciation between flour and flour? Thanks. Nope. Yesterday, my daughter made bread and she baked it using flour. Yesterday, Jen went to the field and she harvested some flowers. Okay. So if you have a plant, it can produce a flower. When you make bread, you use flour. Same pronunciation. Anyways, folks, I'm going to wrap this up. This is the end. Thank you so much for being here. Again, if you are new here, there is a subscribe button there. You should click it. If you did not understand some parts of the lesson, do watch it again tomorrow with the English subtitles on, and that might help you understand. I want to say thank you to Dave and Todd for helping out again. Thanks to Brent. I'm not sure if he's gone already. Thanks to Brent for hanging out in the chat. And thank you to all of my members who have clicked the join button and have decided to help support my channel. You guys are awesome. I hope you learned a little bit of English today. I'm going to say bye. I'm going to click the end stream button, and this will be the end of the lesson for today. Remember, live stream tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, where you can ask me almost any question. But anyways, bye. Have a good week.